Good morning, everyone. Hey, I'm going to talk a little bit about March this morning since we're in that month now, and it's a long month. A lot of things could definitely happen, and kind of are happening, I guess you could say, right now in March. So, hey, everybody else is talking about it too. Why not me, right? No, I'm joking. No, but in all seriousness, I kind of have a little different perspective on this than maybe other people do, because some people have been sending me some emails, text messages about personal things going on in their lives or in their family or what have you, and pretty interesting stuff. And without sharing names or any, intimate details or whatever, I'm just gonna tell you about some of the stuff that I've received here that I thought is kind of interesting. Some of it I already mentioned before, but okay. So what's today? March 7th, right? Okay. As far as I know, on the calendar or, things people are talking about, mentioning, looking at, looking for, researching, observing, whatever. As far as I know, this particular weekend doesn't have any major significance that I'm aware of, other than the fact that we got to do this spring forward thing, for this stupid daylight savings time, losing an hour, which, oh, yay, right? Everybody loves that. Nicer to have daylight, I guess, later in the evening. I guess when I was a kid, I really enjoyed it. Now, as an adult, I really don't care. But I just like not having the sun blasting right in my face, as I'm driving. But, whatever. They do what they do, right? So we have that going on this weekend. But beyond that, up until like the 13th, I don't think anything, significant, as far as a calendar goes, is anything that anybody's really watching for or paying attention to. But beginning the 13th, I guess, 13th, 14th is when we have the blood moon eclipse again, which usually, signifies a time of war. Duh. What are we hearing about? What are we seeing? What are the people always talking about? What's all over the news 24/7, all over everybody's videos. So I'm not surprised by that, and apparently Michael Snyder reported that over the next, it started in 2024, so 2024, 2025, 2026, there's supposed to be a blood moon eclipse over Purim, which I guess starts like the 13th or 14th as well, for these next 3 years, starting 2024, 2025, 2026. I thought, wow, that's pretty interesting. Okay, that's different, right? So I would say there's a good chance that we are definitely, if not already in it, entering a time of major war that's going to continue for quite a while now. Hello, that's Revelation, right? That's the Bible, that's prophecy. So people shouldn't be too surprised by that. But anyway, then you got like 314 Pi Day, which I always kind of found that and kind of interesting. 3.14 or 314 Pi Day, during Purim and so forth. And Purim is different, I think, each time of the year, kind of like Passover or whatever, each time of the different years, I should say. It's not always the same. But anyway, that's when the blood moons are supposed to be, according to his article. So then I'm just looking at these things thinking, okay, yeah, next week, end of next week, you start getting pretty interesting. We'll see what happens. And then I got something a few days ago. I knew about it before, and I didn't really pay a whole lot of attention to it because I wanted to see what, the rest of February into March was going to bring. But there are some, we'll just call it speculations, I guess you could say, about the economy and the markets and so forth. And one person put out their findings to me and some other people, not for public access, because hey, who wants to put themselves out there, have it not happen, and then everybody accuses them of being a liar and a false prophet and a false this and a false that and da-da-da. And all they're really doing is speculating. All they're really doing is saying, hey, I think it's possible. We'll see. That's what everything seems to be leading up to. That's what it seems to be showing. the indicators, the economic indicators or whatever. But like I said, you'll always have those people out there that even if you say, I'm guessing, I'm speculating, I just think that, it's a good possibility, they'll still pin you down and say, you lied, you lied, you lied. It's just like, no. And that's why a lot of people aren't releasing their work, I don't think, for public consumption. Let's just put it that way, because that's kind of what it is, or access, because it's like, who wants to look look stupid and look like a fool, right? So I get it, but from a personal level, people send me quite a few interesting things that I pay attention to, because I kind of put in the back of my mind, like, interesting. Well, this particular one is for 3/21, which is a Friday, I believe. It'll be a Friday, 2 Fridays from now, as a matter of fact, where they believe that could be the beginning of we'll just call it an economic calamity, I guess. We'll see. I don't know. We'll see. But it does make sense to me, because the following day is 3/22. A lot of people know what that means. I'm sure most people know what that means, 3/22. A lot of people say, oh yeah, it's just another date. It doesn't mean anything. Yeah, maybe. But I do remember last year that on that particular date was the attack in Moscow, I believe it was, at that concert hall, which was pretty much predictively programmed from the movie Tenet, which I find very interesting. It's a Christopher Nolan film, Tenet, that was basically one of the only movies that played during the pandemic consistently in theaters. It was like, if somebody was going to go to a theater, if a theater was open, if a movie theater was open, about the only movie they could see was Tenet during that time. I remember it very clearly, and I saw the movie later on myself, and I always thought that scene at the beginning of the film, where they attacked the concert hall, I was like, wow, that's interesting. That's a pretty wild attack, and the way they organized that and the way they put that together. They did a similar thing last year on 3/22 in Russia. So I'm like, all right. I guess we'll see what may or may not happen this year regarding that. But before I get into the stuff that people sent me, this time has always been very significant to me. I've told people that on the other channel before they took it down, but I always watched February and March, because February 23rd, 1989 is kind of the date that in my personal life, I kind of look at that as my transition into adulthood, because it was my first day in a Navy boot camp. And it's like, I knew pretty much right away, Dorothy said to Toto, we're not in Kansas anymore, right? I mean, culture shock, big time. Even though I grew up in a military family, I wasn't prepared for that. I don't think anybody was, because it was a culture shock. I mean, my dad was kind of strict, but not like that. So, but anyway, it was different in the 80s. And it was different than it is now. But anyway, just like people say, well, in the 60s and the 50s, it was different than it is now. But anyway, that was like my transition into adulthood for me personally. February 23rd, 1989. Well, then, unbeknownst to me, I had no idea what this meant. I mean, call it coincidence, call it just a date, whatever. I had no idea. But it was March 22nd of 1994 that actually ended my first active duty service. I went in the reserve years later, but as far as my active duty goes, it ended on March 22nd, 1994. So 3/22, right? So I didn't know, how was I supposed to know, right? Not way back then anyway. I was only like 24 years old. But anyway, I always watch it. And it rarely disappoints, honestly, to be honest with you. It rarely disappoints. And it was in March of 1991 that I returned back to stateside from Desert Storm. So, and that was when I had that experience that people may know about, where I dealt with the uncontrollable darkness in the desert, where the sun was blotted out and all that very strange stuff. Well, that happened in March too. So I'm like, okay, So I always watch it because for me personally, in my life, February and March, very significant. I've started jobs, ended jobs, things of that nature too, and during that time frame, especially February. So I just always watch it. And, and then I guess it was February 22nd, 3 years ago, I guess it was, is when the Ukraine-Russia thing started. So something like that. So I just always pay attention, It rarely disappoints. This last year on February 23rd, it was funny. 3 very interesting things happened to me. One, I got a major flat tire. I mean, so flat I couldn't even put air in it. I take it in to get it fixed, and apparently a piece of sheet metal somehow wound up in my tire. I was like, what in the world? A piece of sheet metal? And it was shredded. There was no way. I had to get a new tire, which is fine because I needed new tires anyway. I just didn't want to do it in that manner. But it all worked out, I got a good deal and whatnot. But I was just like, okay, this is weird. So that happened on February 23rd. And then, even though it didn't really get all that cold, my pipes froze for a period of time. Fortunately, they thawed out very quickly, but I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. And it didn't take long. It got cold enough within just a couple of hours for my pipes to freeze. And I'm thinking, I didn't need to run the water that night and open the cabinets because it wasn't going to be that cold. It was cold enough for the pipes to freeze. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. Fortunately, they did thaw back out. I'm like, what in the world, man? Oh, it's February 23rd. And then my kitchen sink got clogged. The drain, the pipes got clogged. I'm like, whoa, this is just crazy, man. This is just weird. All 3 of these things, the exact same date. People say, oh, that's just a major coincidence, or that has nothing to do with anything. Fair enough. But for me personally, on a personal level, it matters. It always has for many, many, many years. So I'm never surprised. I mean, I'm just kind of like, what's the word I'm looking for? It's like, well, yeah, that's okay. I don't even know how to describe it. It's just like, yeah, well, that's that date, that date's coming up, or that's on that exact date. So, yep, okay, here we go. I can't explain it. Just like the emails and the text messages I've gotten where some very strange things have happened to people that they can't explain. Like, for instance, supposedly, nothing's supposed to be touched as of yet, right? With all these cutbacks and firings and this and that and whatever. But that's not what I'm hearing. I'm hearing people are getting their Medicare cut. I'm hearing they're getting their Medicaid or whatever cut. Their government benefits cut already. Not completely canceled. Still receiving checks or whatever else, but they're taking cuts. They're not getting as much as they were before for whatever reasons. Maybe the wells run dry. Maybe they've used them too much. I don't know. All I know is they're getting cut. So I'm like, okay, you got my attention. And then there's that guy, Dr. Ed Weir, that I was telling people about before. He's really trying to help people to save their benefits before they do get completely cut, or the checks aren't delivered because you fire everybody that's supposed to cut the checks, and you cut this and cut that, cut VA benefits, cut VA personnel, cut this personnel, cut that personnel. Pretty soon you won't have anybody left to do the jobs to cut the checks. Pretty soon you won't have anybody to do anything, so they'll just cut everything, right? It's like, oh, that'll never happen. Yeah, we'll see. A lot of people are saying within 30 to 90 days. We'll see. Like I said, I thought it might already happen, but and it kind of did for certain people because they did receive cuts. Like I said, not cancellations, but cuts. And cuts hurt because if people are expecting a certain amount of money at a certain amount of time with their benefits and they can't get them, that hurts because they budget for that amount. And then all of a sudden, they can't get it. So that's something to keep in mind. Because it could be you, could be your family, could be your, relatives or what have you. So something to definitely pay attention to. And then the last thing is, man, a lot of traffic this morning. the last thing is I get a text message from a friend of mine who lives in Western New York. I said, man, this was weird. He doesn't listen to the radio that often like me. I barely listen to the radio myself. But there have been times, like if you listen to like a Christian music station or whatever else, praise, worship music or whatever, sometimes because they're not a major station and they might have station difficulties or whatever else, sometimes the station may go out for a period of time. And, and then come back or whatever. It's just like, okay, well, you just turn the station to something else, right? It's just like, that's kind of weird, But with him, it wasn't just the station, it was his entire radio. He flipped from station to station and station. All he got was dead air. Okay, nothing. And he's like, whoa, this is strange. So he figures he blew a fuse or something. So he checks it out to see if he blew a fuse. And it's just like, no. I mean, everything seemed to be okay because the next day, the radio worked fine, clear as a bell. So one day, the radio's completely out as he's trying to listen to it on every station. And like I said, he's in Western New York. And then the next day, he winds up turning the radio back on, and it works perfectly fine. Okay, now this is interesting. Well, why is that interesting? Because for a while now, he has been having dreams of power grid failures, outages, or some interesting things have been happening in he and his family, where they have, it's at least, let's put it this way, it at least makes them think outside the box and to think about, okay, what if the power grid goes down? What if we have power outages for long periods of time? And he believes that he's being prepared for this. And it's not only him. I've gotten other messages from people in the past or whatever. They've had dreams or visions of power grid outages, power grid failures, whatever else. Interesting things that's happened to them where they can't explain it. Power goes out, then it comes back on. Very strange. We've seen stuff like this before, turn out the lights, with Trump at his rallies or whatever, and then talking about how the intelligence agencies are doing a good job, then the lights go out and they come back on. Very weird stuff, right? Very weird stuff. Like they're predictably programming us for power outages, for power failures. So as I'm reading what he's saying to me, I'm like, okay. Well, then this morning, Patrick Humphrey puts out a video. I can't remember if it was sent to me or what. I think it was sent to me. I don't remember. But anyway, he puts out a video where evidently, somehow, I don't understand it all, but I guess the power grid in Canada can affect the states of New York, Michigan, and Minnesota. And they could be dealing, and I guess are in certain areas, if not yet. I guess they could be. I don't remember all the details of it. But with power grid outages, power grid failures. That's right, the same person. That's right, the same person that sent me their what happened to them with their radio or whatever. They sent me the video. So he's like, I wonder if this is preparation. I'm just like, could be, man. It could be. It's like the Lord's warning you. He's giving you a heads up. He's telling you what may happen in your area or whatever, that you might want to be thinking a little outside the box and have a plan in case the power goes out. I don't know. It's possible, folks. That's all I can say. We have had lots of predictive programming out there, lots of movies and television shows about cyber attacks and just all kinds of crazy stuff and, rituals. They even called the Oscars a ritual. Conan O'Brien even said, this is a ritual. He said it right out. This is a ritual that will never go away. Doesn't matter about the wildfires and this and that and these disasters and that disaster. We will always have this ritual. So I don't know about always, but yeah, it continues to go on. These rituals continue to go on for sure. Ritual this, ritual that, ritual sacrifice, ritual. So is the power grid outage a ritual? If it happens, whenever it happens, sure, I guess. Just like cuts in payments, cuts in benefits, taking them away completely, I suppose that's a ritual too, right? Everything's a ritual now, so. Anyway, these are just my thoughts on March. And then the last thing is I guess it's speculated that again on March 21st, they might try to sacrifice that red heifer we've been hearing about for a long time. You know, it's like, well, they were going to sacrifice the red heifer, and it's sick, it's twisted, it's demented, but they might do it March 21st. That's the speculation anyway. That's the report. So anyway, just stuff to watch out for. As I said, I'm not saying anything on any particular date. I'm just saying that these are the things I'm looking at. This is things I'm watching for. These are the things I'm paying attention to. If it happens, then yeah, okay, it's like we all had a heads up. We all had advance notice. And if nothing happens, whatever. Life continues on. You know, get up, go to work, take care of your kids, grandkids, whatever else, you know, pay your bills, live life, you know, serve the Lord, serve others, you know, just keep pushing on, keep carrying on. I mean, what else are you going to do? You know, just keep working. Keep doing what you got to do. But if it goes down, it goes down, you know. If things start kicking off in a major way and people start, you know, panicking and they don't know what to do and the grocery stores are closed and, you know, and you can only use cash and, you know, and all of a sudden all this predictive programming stuff, you know, for movies and television shows and even prophecies, dreams, visions, whatever else, all of a sudden everything starts coming to pass, and it starts coming to pass real quick. Like Betty Stevens said in her latest video, it's like Agenda 2030 is actually Agenda 2025. That's what she said. She said it got moved to 2025. That's what she said in her latest video. You can check it out yourself. Deep Calls Unto Deep on Rumble. I even shared it to the post a few days ago. She literally said that. She said that's what the Lord told her, that 2030 has been moved to 2025. Well, we're in 2025. So look at what's been happening since the beginning of 2025, what continues to happen. So makes sense to me that if Agenda 2030 is now Agenda 2025, then we are in for a bumpy ride the rest of this year. And a lot of people have already had it, and some people continue to have it, you know, and it's just like, it's like Pastor Fairclough, what he said, you know, beginning of the year, you know, pray for uncommon favor, but, you know, and believe for uncommon favor, but with uncommon favor comes uncommon attacks. And a lot of people have had some uncommon attacks and continue to, so anyway, I think that's it. I'm almost to work here. Got to get going. Try to upload this thing. So y'all have a great and blessed day. Take care. It's Friday, for whatever that means for certain people. For me, hopefully it means the end of a work week, as far as I know. So y'all be careful, be safe. Have a great, blessed weekend. And keep your head on a swivel. Keep on keeping on and keep paying attention. All right, take care. Bye-bye.